So, so we know that the that literacy is grounded in relationships, and what's really encouraging to us is that we're seeing this growing alignment around that understanding, and also as attention to reading outcomes increases, so does this recognition of the critical role that early learning plays in helping children become successful readers later on. And I know that those of you that are here today that are interested in this topic know that this work that I'm talking about, the work of building relationships, is not separate from literacy. It is literacy work. And every conversation, every story that is read and shared, every song that is sung to young children, every moment of play and supporting children's curiosity, leaning into their curiosity, every serve and return interaction beginning at birth helps children make meaning of the world around them, which builds the foundation for reading. So all of you being here today is essential because I really believe and know that early literacy is not the responsibility of any one person, individual, program, or system. It belongs to all of us. As educators, childcare providers, home visitors, caregivers, and community partners, even as researchers, we are all helping to create and build the relationships and experiences that children need to thrive. So I really do believe that we have an opportunity in front of us, a really exciting opportunity to make Oregon a leader in the country in literacy. And that begins with recognizing that children really truly deserve to be seen, valued, loved, and supported. And when we invest in strong relationships around children from the very start, we do create that foundation for literacy and a lifelong learning that can be born out of those strong relationships. Um, I'm also a realist, and I believe that believing that relationships matter is really only the first step in this conversation. And the real question that we're continually grappling with as a field is how do we turn that belief into practice? And how do we ensure that every child in every community across Oregon has the opportunity to experience the kind of learning environments and relationships that help them thrive? So today's session is really about what that looks like in practice. How do we bring the science of literacy and the science of learning into all of our early learning settings across Oregon in ways that honor child development, respect children's cultures and languages, and keep joy, play, and belonging at the center? So before I hand it over to Erin, I just want to go over a couple of housekeeping items for us. So we're going to have time at the end of the presentation for Q&A and a discussion. So if you are able to put any questions that you have that are kind of broader and bigger questions into the Q&A, that would be great. And then please use the chat for the interactive portions and pieces, and Erin's going to guide you through that. Um, but today's conversation is just really going to be great, and I'm so grateful that Erin was willing to do this for us during grade level reading week. I can't think of anyone better to lead us through this conversation than Erin Lilich. And I am just so delighted to introduce her. So, Erin began her career as a special education and literacy teacher in Colorado and Oregon. And she has worked at every level of our education system, from classrooms to districts to statewide initiatives. And along the way, she's led professional learning. She's supported the development of Oregon's early learning and kindergarten guidelines. She's facilitated deep equity work. She's helped drive systems improvement efforts across our state, including RTI. And today, her role at Children's Institute, Erin is coaching educators across Oregon from birth through fifth grade. And she's also partnering on some great new emerging family literacy projects that help connect research, practice, and community. What I really appreciate most about Erin's work is her ability to really bring together and apply the social justice lens and look at early literacy research and bring in systems thinking in a way that is both really practical as well as inspiring. So the strengths make her just the perfect person for today. And I want to thank you again. Erin is taking time out of her vacation to do this. So I really want to thank you for sharing your expertise. And the floor is all yours.
Oh, thank you, Marina. Well, good morning, everybody. I am joining you from sunny Denver, Colorado this morning, and really glad to be here with you. And first of all, just want to give a thanks and shout out to Danielle on our team who's making all the logistics for this possible today so that I can focus on the content. Hope you're ready to have some fun. Y'all, please share your name, your organization, and your role in the chat. Okay. I'm here to talk about the importance of developmentally appropriate practice, culturally responsive approaches, and the science of literacy. When they work together, children have a strong foundation for learning. But before all that, I want you to meet my niece, Valentine. That's her at, you guessed it, 3 years old, pointing to a picture of herself as a 1 year old eating a watermelon bigger than her. At this stage, Valentine was very into her magnet letters, drawing and writing on her chalkboard and easel, creating her visual schedule with me to ease her separation anxiety, singing and dancing, and reading the book Dream Animals over and over. I think about Valentine a lot, in part because she's the kid I've spent the most time with since her birth, and I've been pretty involved in her literacy development. And I also think about her as a microcosm of Oregon's kids. She's been raised by a single parent. She's multiracial and has been learning in 2 languages since she was 3. She's benefited from programs like SNAP and OHP, and she's funny, curious, and resilient. So when I think about what Oregon's kids need to be thriving readers and writers, I use research and evidence to guide my practice. But I also use my heart. And my heart is for this kid and for every little learner in our state. Next slide, please. My name is Erin Lolich, and I'm an early literacy specialist. Prior to joining the Children's Institute 6 years ago, I spent 20 years as a teacher, professional developer, and administrator in our state. In the photo on the right, that's my sister Dina, my grandpa Irv, and me. Grandpa Irv was a logger, a mechanic, and a cowboy. He was also the adult I remember reading with me the most when I was a child. Next slide, please. Children's Institute is a nonprofit organization that has served Oregon's kids for 25 years. At Children's Institute, we believe every child deserves the opportunity to be great by age 8. That starts with strong foundations in the earliest years, because what happens before age 8 shapes everything else that comes after. Our work is guided by 4 milestones: secure attachment, quality care, strong transitions to kindergarten, and the confidence to learn and explore. In the chat, please add the milestone that resonates most strongly with the work you do. Okay. Ooh, I see some 4s, lots of 4s. Secure attachment, yay. I see strong and supported kindergarten transitions, so important. 2 and 3, 3 and 4. Great. I love that we have a range, 1, 2, 3, and 1. Fantastic. Thank you. Okay, slide 4, please. Next slide. Children's Institute headquarters are in Portland, but as you can see, we work all over the state. Last school year, I spent my time in Clatsop, Columbia, Curry, Coos, Lane, Clackamas, and Multnomah counties. Next slide, please. Here's what we're up to this morning. We're going to unpack developmentally appropriate practice, culturally responsive approaches, and the science of literacy. More importantly, we're going to talk about why, when we weave these practices together, we ensure our littles have a strong learning foundation. Next slide, please. Our state has 261,000 kids under age 5. 41% are children of color. 28% are learning more than one language. They are our future doctors, chefs, accountants, contractors. I want all of them to thrive. Next slide, please. Brain research has taught us that in the first 1,000 days, birth to 3 are the most important for brain development. 90% of brain development happens in the first 5 years. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change and rewire, is strongest when we're little. And this statistic is so wild to me that I had to double check it. In year 1, babies make 1 million neural connections every second. These are the links between neurons that communicate to process information, store memories, and control bodily functions. Are there any neuroscientists in the audience this morning? I am not a neuroscientist, so I've likely missed a few key details here, but you get the gist. The young brain is primed to rapidly learn and grow, which is why the job you do as caregivers and educators is momentous. And every literacy activity you incorporate into a child's day makes a huge difference. We don't want to miss this critical window. Next slide, please. The terms I'm using this morning may be old concepts to you, but with new language. So we can talk about this together today. I'm sharing some simple definitions of these terms. They are not the definition, but one definition, so we can have a common language. So the first is developmentally appropriate practice. Here we go. Next slide, please. You can hop on the website for the National Association for the Education of Young Children, or NAEYC, and read pages and pages about developmentally appropriate practice. But I love this simple definition from Heather Bigger Tomlinson. Developmentally appropriate practice is about making sure children will have fun so that they will learn. Those two are completely connected. Joy supports learning. Part of joyful learning is ensuring that a child learns the next thing they need to know. It's the Goldilocks concept. We want learning that's not too challenging or too easy, but just right. We're about to watch a quick video. Next slide, please. So as we watch the video, here are a few questions to consider while you're watching. How do you know when it's developmentally appropriate practice? And what does it sound, look, and feel like, or look, sound, and feel like? Okay, we're ready for the video. Thank you.
And what's in this one? What's that big? Why are you covering your ears? What's that big one? And what's, ooh, this one smells good. You want to smell it? What do we smell with?
A carrot, some round stones, a twig, and a hat and a skirt.
Traffic jam over here. Traffic jam! Traffic jam! Traffic jam!
They're going inside to play.
No place.
Oh, they're going someplace? Okay, so let's find out where they're going to go. Do we know?
Welcome back, everybody. According to NACI, we have to meet kids where they are at, including culture, language, and ability, in order for it to be developmentally appropriate. I do have one caution here. None of us really knows the ability of a child. We only know what they have already demonstrated and what they have not yet demonstrated. While it probably doesn't make sense to give a toddler a Rubik's Cube or the New York Times crossword puzzle, we don't know what a child is capable of until they are given rich opportunities to learn. We don't want to create any unnecessary ceilings. Next slide, please. Let's talk more about what we mean by culture. We've all got it. Culture is knowing and being, language, race, ethnicity, geography, traditions, and family structure, including fictive kin, the family we choose. You learned about my grandpa reading with me. That was and is part of my culture. So was learning tiny bits of Croatian from my Dida, my other grandpa. Next slide, please. When we break down these words and flip their order, we're talking about listening, learning, and adapting to children and their families based on culture, identity, and experience. Next slide, please. We're about to watch another video. Here are a few questions to consider while you're watching. How does the speaker describe culture? And what makes the example she shares culturally responsive?
Our Center for Resilient Children, and in this limited series, we are unfolding and unpacking and really talking about the word culturally responsive teaching. So, today I wanted to remind you, because I know you already know this, but I did want to make sure we tied up the series with the importance of remembering families as we do culturally responsive teaching. You know, we are nothing without our families. And we are nothing without an understanding of their rich traditions, the things that make them happy, the things that excite them, the things that have been handed down generation to generation. And we are responsible as educators and as a field, as a total. We are responsible for infusing children's culture in everything that we do. As we've said in this video series, culturally responsive teaching is not something that we do a day of the week or a particular month of the year. It's identity. It is making sure we see the whole child and that we are teaching with the whole child in mind. So I want to tell you a story about a time when I was teaching very early in my career. I wanted all of my students to have a tape told by a book narrated by their family member that I could put in the listening area. So I asked all my parents to record their child's favorite story and to bring the recording back to me so I could have it in my listening centers. So talk about culturally responsive teaching. My students got to hear stories narrated in rich language. Sometimes, secondly, not all in English, but we got to hear dialects and enunciations. It was great. One of my families, I just could not get to send the tape back, and I kind of knew I was going to have difficulty. So I went to plan B. The 17-year-old brother would pick up this little guy often. And so I said to the brother, "Hey, will you help me out?" So I told him what I needed. I told him when I needed it back. He said, "Sure, Miss Bruce, I'll be happy to help you." So he took my tape recorder, he took my student's favorite book home, and he recorded it. And he brought it back the next day. And I was so excited because guess what he did? He used such inflections in his voice. I could hear him smiling. I could hear him smiling through some of the pages. He used the student's name in the book. He said, "Beep, time to turn the page. Beep, time to turn the page." And there was one part of the story where there's kind of a sing song. So instead of sing songing it, This 17-year-old rapped it, and it was amazing. So, when we talk today about culturally responsive teaching and we talk about including their families, remember it takes a village. So, getting to know the few people that you may know as part of the family, that's one thing. But who else makes up this child's village? Let's get to know all of them. That's just an example of culturally responsive teaching and how we can make sure we're including families. I identify myself as a part of my family. And so culturally responsive teaching is nothing if it doesn't include the family. And I don't mean that surface level of getting to know the family. I mean those few steps under what we normally do. That's culturally responsive. And that's just an example that we're happy that we can use this space to talk about. So get out of here. We'll see you later. Thank you for listening to our limited series. This time around, we were talking about this word, culturally responsive. But don't forget to sustain it. Culturally responsive and sustaining. See you later. Nefertiti Pointer here with the Devereaux Center for Resilient Children. Thanks for listening.
Okay, welcome back. Next slide, please. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. If you are a caregiver or early childhood provider, I have an assumption that you've got developmentally appropriate practice and culturally responsive approaches nailed. You live and breathe it every day. You are experts with plenty to teach me. What I think may be less familiar to folks in the birth to five space is the science of literacy. It's been around for decades, but it hasn't been widespread in practice, especially in Oregon. This is kind of funny to me because so much of the research body over time has come from the University of Oregon. Next slide, please. If you read or watch the news, you're probably familiar with some of these headlines. They're not pretty. I suspect these headlines are part of why I keep getting invited to speak about early literacy lately. Our state is at a watershed moment in early literacy. What we choose next will echo through a generation. Next slide, please. Here's part of why we're seeing so many headlines about Oregon's literacy rates right now. 60% of our third graders are struggling to read. On the National Assessment of Educational Progress, NAEP, we came in near the bottom on fourth grade reading last year. Unfortunately, these two scores were not outliers. Several assessments over the past few years have pointed to the same downward trend. This isn't about third or fourth grade. It's about what happens from birth to third and fourth grade. Kids and families are doing their best. I believe that teachers are too, but at a systems level, we've got some issues. Powerful statewide organizations and policymakers have fought against some of the changes that we know have been effective in other states. We're afraid to say there's a science here. There's also an art to teaching literacy, but let's not deny the science. Next slide, please. I've been thinking about this question a lot recently. What would we need to believe in order to ensure every Oregonian is a strong reader and writer? Next slide, please. Here are a few beliefs that I think could lead to action and impact. Literacy matters. In this world of artificial intelligence, it's easy to believe robots will be reading and writing for us. But it's reading and writing that strengthen our neural pathways, improve cognitive function, and boost memory. Critical thinking is not a thing of the past. AI might enhance literacy, but it's not going to replace it. Early childhood is the most powerful window for building early literacy skills. Earlier, I showed a bit of the research on what's happening in the brain from birth to 5. We can't wait until kindergarten to introduce early literacy. Multilingualism is a strength. The cognitive and cultural benefits of speaking, reading, writing, and thinking in more than one language are undeniable. We don't have to be fluent to honor and encourage a child's native language. A 4-year-old Spanish speaker lit up recently when he was about to eat 2 orange slices, and I said, "Dos naranjas?" in my terrible accent. All children are capable of and will need to be strong readers and writers. Children rise to the bar we set for them. Let's start from the assumption that all children will learn to read and write at high levels. If all of Oregon's kids are going to be strong readers, all of us need to be literacy teachers. Even adults who aren't literate tell stories, sing songs, make meals. They can ask children questions and teach them new words. Doing all of these activities with young children boosts literacy. So all of us are literacy teachers. What would you add to this list? Please share it in the chat. Next slide, please. In my quest for a solid definition of the science of literacy, I did the obvious thing. I Googled it. I appreciated a couple of things about this definition. The research comes from multiple fields and from multiple countries. Most importantly, reading is not innate, but learned. Speaking is innate. Very few of us need to be taught to speak, but reading is not. We have evidence of this. 60% of our third graders in our state are not reading on grade level. There's a small segment of kids who will just get it with little to no reading or writing instruction. But the vast majority of our kids need really clear methods of instruction before 8 years old to become strong readers and writers. Next slide, please. In 2023, the Oregon Department of Education unveiled a new early literacy framework for our state. I was delighted to see, for the first time in my career, an acknowledgement that strong literacy is more than language, reading, and writing. Student belonging and family and community partnerships support literate kids. Looking at this graphic, we can see that literacy is a complex, multifaceted process. Today, we'll touch on many of these components, but not on all of them. In the 1990s, Dr. Hollis Scarborough, a psychologist and literacy expert, used pipe cleaners to help parents understand how literacy develops. This model, now commonly known as Scarborough's reading rope, was eventually published in the Handbook of Early Literacy Research in 2001. Scarborough's rope shows how elements of language, including background knowledge, vocabulary, structure, reasoning, and literacy knowledge, intersect and weave together. Word recognition, made up of phonological awareness, decoding, and sight recognition, braid together with language comprehension. With the right practice, over time, children become more strategic and automatic. The photo on the right is from Driftwood Elementary School on the South Coast. After their staff learned about Scarborough's rope last year, they had a family night to teach parents and caregivers about how we learn to read. Next slide, please. Now we'll dig into 5 components of early literacy. For each component of early literacy, we'll talk about what it is, why it matters, and one strategy anyone can try. Danielle's going to share a link in the chat. That's an organizer if you'd like to take notes as we go. So first, oral language, which is about speaking and listening. While vocabulary is focused on understanding and using words, vocabulary is highly predictive of how well a child understands what they read. All of us can tell stories and focus on the meanings of a few important or interesting words. Next slide, please. Print concepts means understanding. Books are held right side up, and in English, we read from left to right. As children progress in their reading, it includes understanding features like the table of contents and captions. It turns out these skills give us a good idea about if a reader is on track. Fun way to build understanding of print concepts is to have children find print in their environment and talk about it. Next slide, please. Children should enter kindergarten able to identify the first sound in a word, but many will need more instruction and more practice to do that. In order to support kids with this skill, we as adults need to know the 44 phonemes, the smallest units of sound of the English language. We're not going to watch this video right now, but it's a fantastic resource to practice sounds. You'll have access to this presentation and all of the links and videos. Often adults add a schwa sound to the end of a phoneme, so k becomes ka. Once you've got your phonemes down, play I Spy with kids. For example, I spy something that starts with the sound mm. Next slide, please. Here's a game kids can do almost anywhere. Have children scan their environment for a specific letter. Have kids say the letter name and sound, and have them write it or air write it. All of this helps support development of alphabet knowledge. Next slide, please. Early learning experts Allen and Morell have laid out what they call the 4 keys of writing. The first is sounds and letters. Children use phonics to help writing. Next is print fluency. Children practice handwriting, letter formation, and spelling to write correctly. Number 3 is meaning making. Children build knowledge and form ideas using writing. And number 4 is the power of story. Children can create stories and explore different types of writing to produce writing for various purposes. Next slide, please. Now we've talked through 5 elements of early literacy. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to read these questions, to think, and to write. All right, come on back, please. While you were writing, I had a chance to read the beliefs that you added to the chat, and I just want to say yes to all of them. Thank you for contributing to and strengthening that list. I really appreciate it. Next slide, please. Before we zoom back out to our 3 big concepts today, I want to share this quote from Pam Allen. It's a great reminder for folks like me who tend toward neat and organized. When it comes to early literacy, messy is magic. Next slide, please. I want to leave you this morning considering how we might hold developmentally appropriate practice, culturally responsive approaches, and the science of literacy in equal balance. The science of learning supports weaving them together, and kids do best when we do. How do we design our days with kids to ensure all 3? Again, I welcome your ideas in the chat. And next slide, please. I know you will make a difference in the lives of our littlest learners by ensuring the children in your care listen to stories, sing songs, play sound and word games, hold books, and learn how they work, and draw and write. I know you will do this in ways that are joyful and responsive to the cultures of your children and families. Thank you for setting up our kids to be literate Oregonians with bright futures. Our final activity is a 3-2-1 action plan. For the next 3 minutes, jot down 3 new ideas, 2 things you'll try, and 1 question that's lingering. And Danielle is going to drop an organizer in the chat if you'd like that to organize your thinking. Okay, next slide, please. I'd like to leave you thinking, oh, sorry. If you'd like to dig deeper, here are the resources I used to create this presentation. These websites have a wealth of activities, videos, and information to support early literacy. Next slide, please. I'd like to leave you thinking about how we prepare the future for our children. My niece Valentine is now 14 and about to start high school. I was hoping to give you a glimpse of her reading and writing skills now, but if you've ever asked a 14-year-old to share their academic work, you know that I came up short. Next slide, please. If you'd like to partner with Children's Institute, we have multiple offerings. For teams wanting a year-long deep dive into family engagement, our Early School Success Academy is right for you. For rural communities looking to strengthen pre-K through 3rd grade, we have a rural coaching offering. For multilingual educators looking to further multilingual pathways, Échale Ganas is for you. And if you'd like to strengthen early literacy through coaching and professional development, I offer multiple early literacy options. Next slide, please. We set out to unpack developmentally appropriate practice, culturally responsive approaches, and the science of literacy. Then we talked about weaving these practices together to ensure our littles have a strong learning foundation.
Now we're gonna transition over into our Q&A. First of all, I just want to thank Erin for this incredible time in this session and reminding us that there is messiness in the magic, magic in the messiness, that we need to make learning fun so that kids will learn. I loved the video reminding us that we can't do culturally responsive and sustaining practices without families at the center. I also love the reminder that multilingualism is a strength, and appreciated how clearly you explained the science of reading and that it isn't a natural process for children to learn how to read, and that they do need some explicit instruction and exposure. And I really appreciated the Scarborough's rope. I always love seeing that. And this was just really exactly the kind of conversation that we wanted to have today in the deep learning to prompt us, to get us thinking about what we want to see for kids in our state of Oregon, and helping us connect that research to what children and families need every day. So we don't have any questions that were dropped into our Q&A. But I do encourage you all, you can come off of mic if you want to just speak a question into this space. Otherwise, I have some questions for Erin, but I'll give you a little bit of time for folks to throw in some questions into the chat or in the space. In the interest of time, Erin, I just want to start by asking a question that, kind of popped up in the chat a lot and is just something that is on a lot of people's minds right now. But many early childhood providers worry about the greater emphasis on literacy instruction that we're hearing, that could replace or reduce opportunities for children to play. And so I'm wondering about what you think about how educators can better integrate literacy while maintaining that joyful, playful based learning in their classrooms?
Thanks for that question, Marina. I think this play versus learning is really, or versus literacy is really, it's a false dichotomy. The science tell us what children need to learn, and developmentally appropriate practice helps us decide how they learn it. And for young children, as you shared and I shared, that means song and movement and storytelling and dramatic play and games and conversation and exploration. So again, it's got to be playful, it's got to be messy. That's part of the magic, and I think we can do both without sacrificing play and without sacrificing early literacy learning opportunities.
I love that. That's exactly right. And most of our approved curricula in the state for at least preschool make sure that those spaces are available. But it's as we get into some of the upper grades that we start losing that. And I know that's been a big discussion in our state is how do we make sure that that also transitions into kindergarten and the upper grades as well. But now I want to ask you another question, just really practical. If a childcare provider leaves this session today and implements just one literacy practice tomorrow, what would you recommend and why?
Hmm, that's a great question. Um, I think I would recommend intentional conversation. So talking with children, having children talk to each other, introducing new vocabulary, asking questions,
Mhm.
telling stories, responsive back and forth conversation or serve and return as you named. I know folks put in the chat. It's one of the most powerful things that adults can do because it supports oral language, vocabulary, and comprehension, and all of those are foundations for later reading success.
Yes, language, language, language. The more kids learn and hear, the better readers they're going to be. I love
One of
that.
my favorite researchers, Dr. Kate Kinsella, talks about miles on the tongue. And she was
Mm,
referring specifically to multilingual learners and the need to practice miles on the tongue to acquire a new language. But I think it's true for all kids.
I love that. I love that so much. It's going to be my new favorite saying, miles on the tongue. Although I'm sure people want less miles on my tongue. So, all right. You spent a lot of time talking about that intersection of developmentally appropriate practice along with sharing the video with the culturally responsive approaches, as well as the science of literacy. And then I'm just really wanting you to share with everyone why it is so important that educators avoid treating these as separate initiatives. I feel like that is just like the core message.
Yeah, because children don't experience them separately, right? A child doesn't walk into our classroom and say, I'm a learner today, or I'm a member of my culture today, or I'm a future reader today. They bring all of those identities with them all at once. So when we combine all three, then we can create learning experiences that are joyful, meaningful, and effective. If we miss one, we're leaving part of a child behind.
Absolutely. Um, So you highlighted a little bit, or we talked a little bit, especially on the front end about, and you shared the data so clearly about Oregon's poor literacy outcomes and scores. And I'm wondering, those are some heavy things to grapple with, and I'm wondering what's giving you hope right now, um, and hope around what early childhood educators can do right now to help change that trajectory.
Well, what gives me hope is everybody here today. Over 100 people registered for this webinar in the middle of summer. That's very hopeful to me. And that many people care about early literacy and want to learn more and want to be a part of the conversation. And our early childhood professionals are building children's language and vocabulary and confidence every single day. And those first 5 years are such a powerful opportunity. If we invest in them, we can change opportunities for and outcomes for an entire generation. So our educators give me hope, their passion, and just that they keep showing up for kids day after day. And then, children give me hope, of course. There's a reason my niece is included in this presentation. Most presentations I give, she's part of my why, and children are part of my why. So kids give me hope.
I love that. Um, all right. Well, I'm just gonna check really quick with the audience, see if anyone else has any questions that have come up or emerged. I'm checking the Q&A, no more questions. A
Just a
lot of
lot of
people,
gratitude in the chat.
mm, a lot of gratitude and people having to pop up understandably for other meetings and such. All right. Well, Erin, what about one more question before we close up?
Sure.
There's
All
also
right.
one in the chat. Is that it just came in?
Oh, awesome. Thank you I just missed that. Okay, I want to see how an educator can assess their setting to identify what they might be able to change to make it easier to apply and share ideas with the children and families. Also, share the scripted dialogue that people traditionally use during acts of communication, practice, and speech in multiple languages. I appreciate your passion and desire to create change. Thank you, Melly. That's a great.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. Well, how to scan your setting? Take a video, send it to me, email it to me. I'd love to to see what it looks like. Or if you're close by, or I can pair it with another visit. I'd be happy to come observe. That's what I do. I love it. So I think taking a video and doing some self-reflection, or asking a colleague, or a coach like me to give you feedback is one way you could scan your setting, and I'd love to do that. And yeah, thank you. I appreciate the question.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right. Erin, just as a final kind of thought and wrap up, I'm wondering if you could kind of share a vision that you might have 5 years from now. Thinking about 5 years ahead, what changes are you hoping to see in Oregon's early learning environments if providers successfully were able to balance developmentally appropriate practice, culturally responsive approaches, and the underpinnings of the science of literacy?
Ooh, that's a big question. I think what comes to mind first is just that professional learning opportunities are available to all educators in our state, and that they're offered at a time that works for childcare providers. I know that's a huge, huge challenge, that they're offered in the languages that childcare and early learning providers are using in their settings. So, love to see multilingual professional learning opportunities that are accessible for everyone, and that they're consistent, and that materials, it would be amazing if materials were provided and if those were consistent too. I know educators spend a lot of time tracking down materials, and struggling with the resources needed available to make those. So those are a couple of things just off the top of my head. I'm sure if I think about that some more, I'll have lots to say, but that's what came to me first.
That's great. Yeah, high quality literacy materials are such a challenge to come by and so expensive. And oftentimes teachers are forced, to have to buy their own materials. So having
Yeah.
those flexible funds available is so
Yeah.
critical.
Yeah. I think the one other thing I would say is just I would love for all families to know what's expected at different ages and stages of literacy development, and to have the resources and materials available to them as well, so that kindergarten doesn't come as a surprise, preschool doesn't come as a surprise, that families have access to that and feel like they are literacy teachers. That they're their child's first teacher. I would add that in the mix.
Ah, yes, that is huge. Love ending on that note. Well, I want to thank you again, Erin, and everyone here for joining us today. This has been so great. And I, just want to reiterate, as we've all shared in the chat and heard today, that this grade level reading starts at birth. And every one of us who is spending time with young children is a literacy teacher, whether it's your niece, whether it's your neighbor, whether it's a student in your classroom. Those relationships are so important for kids to have the opportunity to build that language skill that leads to later reading. And so, on behalf of the Children's Institute and the Oregon Campaign for Grade Level Reading, I want to thank you all for the work that you do every day for kids. And I hope that you will enjoy the rest of Grade Level Reading Week. If you're going to join other sessions, if you want information on other sessions, please feel free to reach out to us. And I hope that the rest of your day goes beautifully. Thanks again for joining us. All
Thanks,
right.
everybody. Gratitude.
In the interest of